Today I'm going to be talking about my upcoming tabletop RPG, Play Ball. I'm really excited. It's something really important to me, and I think it's going to be a really good game. I am really excited to break it down in all of its components right now. So I suppose, without further ado, let's talk baseball. So the first thing to know about Play Ball is that it is a baseball TTRPG themed around high school sports anime. I grew up big anime fan, big baseball fan. I played baseball, and I love TTRPGs, and I've worked on a few, and everything kind of all came together, and Play Ball, over the span of a few days, really exploded into this big thing that was just supposed to be a small, easy to learn concept. And it's still, hopefully, easy to learn. I'm really excited. So Play Ball uses all of the dice in a polyhedral dice set except for the percentile die. And it's mainly focused around a D12 system for gameplay. Excuse me for a moment. I will be right back. Sorry about that. My cat decided he was going to act up as soon as I started talking. But back to Play Ball. So Play Ball operates... it's mainly focused on playing the sport of baseball. And I tried to account for all of the different variables that baseball has, because depending on where the ball is hit, how it's hit, there are so many different things that could happen. Then you have to account for base runners and trying to beat the throw or tagging up, and ultimately I tried to find the simplest way to account for all of that. So there are two styles of play. One is a bit of a crunchier style of play that involves multiple dice rolls in any given round, and all of those rolls will determine kind of how any given at-bat plays out. And then the other mode of play is a simplified version of all of that, using significantly less dice rolls, and it's kind of meant to just speed things along, so that if you're new to baseball or new to TTRPGs or what have you, it'll be easier to learn, easier to pick up and play, and it It changes things a little bit, but not really. So in the standard mode of play, there are 9 rounds known as innings. The game master, or the umpire, as it's called in this, is kind of responsible for moving things along and kind of controlling the opposite team. Each inning has 3 different phases. There's the at-bat phase, the live ball phase, and the dugout phase. So I decided to break things up into 3 different phases of play to kind of move things along at a gradual pace. The alternative style of play only has 3 innings rather than 9. So it speeds things along significantly. So in the at-bat phase, which is the first phase in every inning, the hitter and the pitcher have a relatively simple contested roll. So each player rolls a d12, and they add one of their 2 sport stats, either skill or strategy, to that d12 roll, and potentially any other bonuses from any abilities they might have based on their character tropes. And based on that contested roll, if the pitcher wins, it's a strikeout. It's just call it a day. If the hitter wins, the hitter then rolls another dice, and we move on to the live ball phase. So also in the live ball phase, it appears, excuse me, in the live ball phase, if there's an open base and someone is on base, that person can decide to steal a base. Thank you, Kat. If the player on base rolls a d20, they add their strategy stat, and they have to beat 15 or they're out. So stealing bases is relatively simple. And for the sake of pace of play, you can only steal 3 times per game. In the live ball phase, the hitter will roll a d4 to determine what kind of hit it was. The options are a foul ball, a walk, and a hit. So a foul is if you roll a 1, a walk is a 2, and 3 or a 4 on that d4 is a hit. And when I say a hit, it means the ball is in play, and they then roll a d. If they hit, they roll a d10, and that determines essentially which position the ball is hit to. So there are 9 players on any given team. There's the catcher, the pitcher, first, second, third base, shortstop, left, right, and center field. So those are numbers 1 through 9, and if you roll a 10 on that d10, it goes to the outfield wall, which will result in a base hit no matter what. So that's the good news. After figuring out where the ball is hit and how the ball is hit, or rather what kind of hit it is, where the hit is going, you will then roll another d10, and that'll determine what kind of hit it was. So 1 through 3 is a ground ball, 4 through 6 is a line drive, 7 through 9 is a fly ball, and a 10 is either a hitter's choice if you rolled 1 through 9 on the previous roll, or a home run if you rolled a 10. So hitting home runs is difficult because you need to get a hit, you need to put the ball in play, and then you have to roll 2 10s, so it goes to the outfield wall, and then with that second 10, it's automatically a home run, which is great. The good news is all these baseball terms are also going to be listed in the back of the book, so if you have no idea what I'm talking about, it'll be nice and easy to sort of try and keep track of. If it's a foul ball, you roll a d4 to see if it's like a pop-up or behind the plate to the left or right side of the infield, or just directly out of play. If the ball's hit out of play, that ends it, and you go back to another contested roll between the hitter and the pitcher in the at-bat phase. If not, the fielders can roll a d12 depending on where the ball is hit, and the challenge rating is 6 plus whatever the hitter's bonus was, and the fielder can try to make the out on a foul ball. If the hitter rolls a walk, they just advance to first base, no questions asked, no extra rolls or anything like that. So yeah, if a hit occurs and 2 10s are rolled, it's a home run. Everyone on base scores for whichever team is at bat. If it's anything other than a home run, all fielders, whichever fielder that the ball gets hit to, does get a chance to make a play on the ball or use one of their abilities. So every character trope has 2 abilities. One multi-use ability, which is their secondary ability, and one once per game you can do insert thing here primary ability. There are 3 position categories, and each position category has 5 different character tropes at the moment for people to choose from. I hope to expand on that someday, but right now the 15 different tropes for people to pick from seems pretty good. If the ball is hit to a fielder and they want to make a play, they'll roll a d12, and they can add their skill stat to that roll, and they have to beat the challenge roll of the hit, which is the 6 plus whatever the hitter's bonus was, which will kind of, well, it's, no. The challenge roll of the hit is 6 plus, and then whatever kind of hit it was. So a ground ball is +0, line drive +2, fly ball +3, and hitter's choice +4. Fielders who beat any roll on a fly ball or a line drive record 1 of 3 outs. Ground balls require another roll to make a successful throw to get an out. So it's a flat D20 roll that just has to be above a 10, and players can add their skill rating. In the event of a double play, the first roll has to beat a 10, and the second roll has to beat a 15. So I've really tried to account for all the different kinds of things that happen when the ball is hit, while also trying to simplify it. So baseball has a lot of variables, and you know, when you start accounting for things like the shift and the hit and run and the drag bunting, relief pitchers, it kind of gets pretty out of hand. So I kind of dialed all of that down. There are no substitutions, so you don't bring players off the bench to pinch hit or anything like that. You don't relieve pitchers, even though that does happen in baseball. It would all just get too complicated. So pitchers don't have like an energy meter or anything like that. Because with the way things are, it feels like in the standard style of play, things are already going to be busy. So in the alternative mode of play, they're going to be less busy, but typically if you're playing in that alternative mode of play, you're looking for a more streamlined baseball experience and more of a narrative experience. At least that's how I designed it. Once you go through the at-bat and live ball phase and record 3 outs, the teams switch. And once both teams get the chance to hit in the inning, the next inning begins, and so on and so forth until all 9 are complete. If the team hitting second has more runs than the other team after getting 3 outs in the top half of the final round, the game's over because there's no reason for the team that's winning to hit again. So I did account for base running and extra base hits, so doubles, triples, home runs. So when a hitter manages to hit it into the outfield, it will sometimes result in a double or a triple. So if the hitter hits it to the outfield, they can choose to stay on first or to roll a D20 challenge roll of a 10 for a double and a 15 for a triple. That will potentially change just because I might make that more of a contested roll with the fielder trying to make the out. But again, this is all a work in progress. The base running and the extra base hits, I didn't want to add an extra dice roll to whatever the hitter is doing because I didn't want the hitter to just be making 4 rolls. But those are things that I'm still considering. The game is obviously still very much in development, but moving on to the third phase, the dugout phase. It's a phase for players to role play with each other in between innings or half innings. There are 1 or 2 character tropes that have abilities that can only be activated during the dugout phase to give their teammates benefits. You know, some would call that a support class. It kind of is. So, you know, some players might want to discuss a strategy, give a pep talk, or just, you know, high-five their teammates and get ready for the next half of the inning. During this phase, the players and the umpire should make it clear what the current score is and how many more rounds there are before the game's over. So it's a nice little sort of role-playing phase that doesn't take up too much time unless you want it to. I really wanted to sort of drive home the team aspect here. Because the actual baseball feels very individualistic, and that's the thing about baseball. You have to rely on your teammates, but you're also making individual plays pretty often. So when all the rounds are complete, team with the most runs wins, obviously. And then the game returns to the cinematic and narrative moments, you know, post-game, at home, in the locker room, practice field, whatever. When I envisioned a session of play for this game, I envisioned one baseball game and then role play in between and around it. You can make this game more like Kuroko's basketball or more like Haikyuu, depending on who you are, what kind of experience you want, and kind of what the whole group wants to do. Essentially, this game, you and your friends are playing the main characters of a sports anime, and it just happens to be baseball. It's high school baseball. You can obviously homebrew different like settings, like professional or college or little league even. I have plans to release those sort of expansions to this later on. But my focus right now is just getting this out there. So let's say the standard group is a total of 4 people, 1 umpire, 3 players. That obviously leaves 6 different players on the team that aren't main characters. They don't have special abilities or anything like your player characters do. And whoever wants to control any individual player on the team can. And then it's really just making standard basic rolls with no bonuses or anything like that. This was a big part for the pacing, for me to avoid trying to add too many things in, like substitutions and injuries, pinch hitting, relief pitching, all of that, because this way the umpire doesn't have to craft this super deep team just for one game, because they're typically crafting the opposing team, which may feature an NPC with a special ability or two, because what kind of game would it be if there wasn't a souped up antagonist? And your team, there's you and your group plus whoever else is on the team. So I really tried to cut down the amount of work that had to be put into prep for this game. But yeah, to sort of specify really quick the alternative style of gameplay. Hello, Pug, and yes, Cat, a future Sandlot expansion could be in the future of Play Ball. I would love to do that. So hopefully Play Ball is loved enough by people. The alternative style of play kind of is for new players and maybe like a casual game or something like that, so that it's a more cinematic and a more narrative-driven style of play. The players and the umpire sort of tell the story of the game more than they use the mechanics. So you can put a lot more flair on what you're doing. In this mode of play, players can only use one of their character trope abilities once, but the game's played where the umpire can set up the scene for anyone, and that player kind of gets a chance to choose what they want to do. So if a pitcher wants to throw like a no-hitter and stop the opposing team from getting any hits, they can decide that the best way to do that is to rely on their teammates. The superstar infielder who makes crazy diving plays, or the outfielder with an absolute cannon for an arm. This style of play focuses on challenge rolls rather than the variables on any given dice roll, like I roll a d4 and then I roll a d10 and another d10. the umpire kind of decides where the ball is going and who's going to make the play. So it really puts more of the focus on the player characters, and then the players can kind of say, okay, well, the ball's hit to me, it's a direct line drive, so I'm going to, you know, just dive and try and make the play, or I'm going to jump as high as I can to stop it from going over my head, or whatever. And it kind of just, the umpire decides, okay, roll your D12, add your bonus, you have to beat this. So I try and keep it simple. I wanted there to be a much easier to follow style of play as opposed to the more detail-oriented standard style of play. So I really wanted Play Ball to be a game that anybody could play without having to learn a bunch of different dice mechanics. And there's not that many. There's less at work here than when you start accounting for status conditions and everything in like a D&D. In this, you're just kind of, hey, here's this. Umpires can decide to add, you know, subtract from players' rolls based on weather. Like it's a really rainy day, so the ball's extra slippery, so any throw is -1 or -2. Yes. Yes, Pug. Umpire does equal GM in Play Ball. And the umpire doesn't decide where hits are headed when the batter makes contact unless it's the alternative style of play. In the standard style of play, as I went through before you got here, there's a contested roll between the hitter and the pitcher. The umpire will play the opposite of the player character's team in either situation, and whoever wins that contested roll, if the pitcher wins, it's an out. If the hitter wins, they'll make a series of rolls to determine what kind of hit it is, foul ball, walk, base hit, whatever. A roll to determine where it's going, to the pitcher, the wall, in the outfield, what have you, and whether it's a ground ball, fly ball, line drive, or a hitter's choice. So they get to choose what kind of hit it is based on where they hit it. So it uses a series of rolls to kind of determine what's happening. Because I wanted to leave that as much in the player's hands as possible. I don't want the umpire to have to do too much work. The umpire is essentially a player just as much as the players playing the player characters are, because they're controlling the opposing team. So since this game is themed after a sports anime, there's obviously competitive moments, so that really gives the umpire a chance to kind of do whatever they want with the opposing team. They can make it so that it's a team of a bunch of average Joes and underdogs, or they can make it a super stacked, really powerful team that just kind of loves to hit home runs or something like that. I kept the statistical side of the game simple. So your characters only have 4 different stats. 2 of them are like social stats, and then 2 of them are sort of sports stats. The sports stats are meant to be used for the baseball side of it, and then the 2 sort of social stats are used for the role play side of it. So that you just add it to your D12 roll. This is a D12 focused system. I felt like the D12 didn't get enough love, and it felt like the right dice to use for this. So it kind of worked out. So yeah, there's the 4 stats, and then I kind of go through the book. I give advice for playing sort of all the role play moments in between, and I even include a couple of sort of character relationships for people to use in case they don't really know how they want to build their anime protagonist. Because I cannot stress enough that in play ball, as a player, you are stepping into the shoes of an anime protagonist in a sports anime. So you can be the underdog, you can be the superstar, you can be the mentor, you know, third-year player ready to bring along the new young players as you chase a final championship or a final, you know, inter-high tournament appearance or whatever. In baseball, there are 9 different positions, 10 if you count the designated hitter, but 9 different positions. So I break down character creation into just 3 sort of position categories: pitcher, infield, and outfield. You can choose whatever position based on those 3. So you can be the starting pitcher, or you can be a first baseman, second baseman, center fielder, whatever. Pitchers obviously have abilities mainly focused on, you know, getting batters out, and kind of advancing the game along in a quicker manner once or twice or 3 times per game. There's the 5 different pitcher tropes. The infielders are more focused on... The infielders and the outfielders have different position tropes that focus more on hitting and fielding. They kind of vary. Some are purely hitting focused, some are fielding focused. So it kind of varies. It really depends on what kind of character you want to play. So I have things like a struggling third year or a supportive teammate. And a character like the supportive teammate kind of focuses on boosting their teammate's abilities or restoring a teammate's ability or something like that. So I really wanted to kind of make sure every position trope seemed super overpowered, but there are limits to how often you can use them. They're all equally overpowered and broken in their own way. Your anime protagonist, of course, your character trope is going to be something that makes you ridiculous at the sport, because I didn't want to make the game like so even and so balanced that the opposing team of NPCs would lose every single time, or, you know, even win most of the time or anything like that. I wanted to make it so that the player characters had their chance to have big moments by using their abilities, and maybe tying a game up after a bunch of bad rolls from them, or even just pulling way ahead and blowing a team that was supposed to be really good out of the water, to sort of change how people look at their team in the sort of narrative world that you're playing in. I wanted to make it so that the player characters at the table were kind of set up with the very obvious advantage of being an anime main character. It's not fun to lose. Now, obviously, the consequences of losing in play ball kind of depend on the situation. Like if you're in a single elimination tournament, if you lose once, you're done. That kind of really can impact players. And if that's the kind of game you want, the umpire obviously has the ability to improve the opposing team. And another thing about play ball is the umpire doesn't need a DM screen or anything like that to hide their roles. You know, maybe they need to keep track of the NPC's stats and abilities or whatever, and some different character names and everything. But it's not like there's anything to hide. There aren't character armor classes or anything like that. So it really does kind of bring the whole table together. The umpire is really just trying to facilitate everything and move the game along and keep everyone on track. I include in the core book a section for umpires. So I go into a sort of inspiration type mechanic with momentum. I go into creating opposing teams. I break down all the different sort of off the field story elements that you can include. And then, of course, I go down into character relationships and breaking down those relationships to say, hey, maybe someone wants a player-coach relationship, or, you know, a sibling rivalry where their older sibling was this superstar and now they're the younger sibling and whatever. Also included in the main book for Play Ball is a one-shot to sort of teach people how to play. It gives you an opportunity to learn the mechanics of the game. It's pre-built. It's ready to go, basically out of the box, with an entire team of NPCs ready to go. Situations detailed. Like, it's a quick, small, little thing, and it's easy to pick up and play. Like, hey, do you guys want to come over and play this tabletop game? Oh, you know, I'm not really a baseball fan, or oh, I've never heard of that. Like, oh, I don't really do tabletop RPGs. Okay, well, guess what? There's no prep involved. Anyone can, you know, learn how to run a game. Anyone can learn how to play a game. Your player characters, there are 5 pre-generated ones with their abilities and everything already chosen for them. They have nicknames. So the game is quite literally ready to play, ready to learn. It's just... It's ready to go, and you can learn it, and I don't think it's really all that complicated, because I was intentionally building it so that, because the way Play Ball kind of came about, me and my friend Gnome were wanting to do a streamed game, and we wanted to do baseball anime. There was no tabletop system out there that was capable of facilitating anime sports TTRPG. So I was like, hey, you know, I can try and throw something together, something really simple, really basic. And over the course of about 48 hours, I just ran with it. I got so excited. It was the thing I was most excited about. I don't think I've been as excited for a project as I am about Play Ball ever in my life. And it kind of came to be, and it just grew into this big thing. It's a small game. I mean, the Google Doc alone is only like 15 or so double columned pages. It's not like it's this huge big book or like 3 different core rule books or anything like that. It's one person can get this and play it with all of their friends. It's easy, it's simple, and I think it's really fun. I think it's easy to learn because I wanted it to be easy for someone to be able to run, for me and Gnome and the other people we wanted to sort of bring into the game. We wanted anybody to be able to just jump in and pick up the book and be able to run the game. And we also wanted it so that people can jump in and play, and it's that easy. You can make a little cheat sheet for the steps, like, okay, I roll this, then I roll this, then I roll this, like on an index card if you need it to be sort of broken down in a different way. But I really wanted to make this a game that people can play with their friends and have a good time, and that's why I included the 2 different styles and gameplay modes so that different groups can try it different ways, and umpires and people are obviously allowed to tinker and tailor that experience to an experience that works best for them. And you know, if you want to homebrew, you know, a little league thing, obviously you can change, you can make different character abilities and everything. You can homebrew a professional setting and do even more overpowered abilities. There are so many possibilities, and you can, you know, you can make whatever setting you want using whatever kind of teams and locations and tournament styles that you want. Because obviously in sports anime, they're always shooting for nationals and inter-high. And, you know, in America, sports are a little bit different the way that we go about things, like baseball. You know, you go to most high school athletics, you go to a state tournament and then you become a state champion. It's not like a whole country, but the whole country is bigger. It's different. You can do anything you want. I include breakdowns for creating a school, a logo, a mascot, creating a whole environment in whatever city, in whatever country, anywhere in the world that you want. I include recommended safety tools in the book because I think safety tools are so important for any game that you play, and I wanted to make it clear that this game is all about that. And obviously you can do whatever you want with safety tools, but I tried to sort of make it easier to start the conversation. Let's see. I think that about breaks down all the different things that are included in the core book without giving too much away. I feel really passionate about play ball, and I am so excited to kind of see where it goes. And the Kickstarter next month, I'm so excited about. September 20th, so literally a month from today. Funny how that works out. I just want people to be able to play this game, and I made it with baseball fans in mind because I'm a huge baseball fan, but I also made it with people who are new to the sport of baseball, or you know, who are just fans of sports anime and not really real life sports in general. And I really wanted to make it a game that was for anybody and everybody. And I like to use me and my fiance as an example because I'm really big into sports and they are less into sports and more into the teams that I like, and they watch it with me when I'm watching it, but I imagine they wouldn't necessarily seek it out on their own. And I wanted to be able to account for both of those kinds of people. A game that I can play with my fiance, and a game that I can play with all my other friends who don't like sports, because that's basically all of them at this point. But yeah, I guess that really kind of breaks down play ball down to its bones. There are obviously changes that I have to make, because as I was going through and explaining it, I was like, oh, you know what? I could do this instead. I could change this, or I could change that. Or, oh, hey, you know, maybe I should clarify this or clarify that. So the second I start talking about it out loud, naturally I want to change everything. But, you know, that's just who I am as a person. But yeah, I guess that really does it for me today. Unless there are questions about play ball, you can ask those in the chat, and I'm more than happy to answer them. But overall, I'm just really excited about this game. It is, of all the projects I'm working on and all the tabletop RPGs I'm working on, this is like the one I'm most excited about, the most passionate about, and it's really the first thing that I can attach my name to and say, I did all of this myself. This was all me. Yes, Pug, I am doing a Kickstarter for this. Play Ball will have a Kickstarter going live September 20th, a month from today, and it will run for about 60 days. The base tier includes a copy of the core book as well as a PDF download. Every copy of Play Ball is going to come with a digital PDF download, and I've got a lot of really exciting things, exciting rewards set up for Play Ball, including, you know, baseball cards, including character art of a Play Ball character, a glass MVP token that can be handed out to players at the table, or that you can just keep as a nice collectible, stickers, signed copies of the playbook because I'm vain and have a humongous ego, jerseys, ball caps, all sorts of things. I'm really excited. And the team that I've lined up for the game, the art, the layout, the editing, I'm so excited. Like, I don't know. I cannot stress enough how cool Play Ball is going to be. The artist I've spoken to is so good. And I'm really excited to work with them. So I really hope the project gets funded. My pinned tweet on Twitter is the Play Ball Kickstarter page. You can follow it and be notified when it goes live. I posted the link to my Twitter directly in the chat. But yeah, no, there were maybe 2 TTRPGs in development that I found when I did a very extensive Google search trying to find pretty much any system that could facilitate this kind of game. And as a huge sports fan, an anime fan, and a TTRPG fan, I felt like I was the perfect person to finally put that out there. I couldn't find it. I'm sure other people have wanted something like it. So I'm really excited. I hope that it gets the attention that it deserves. The Kickstarter sort of target goal is pretty high, and that makes me really nervous when I account for the rewards and the printing and everything and all the costs for production and all the people I need to hire to work on it to make it, you know, doable. If the Kickstarter fails, I'm going to find a different way to get Play Ball out there, but I'd really like to do it on my own, with me in the driver's seat. So I'm hoping to get a couple of games together to stream on Twitch so that people can sort of see the gameplay in action. But just in case, I did want to get this stream and video that'll be up on YouTube later out there so that people can kind of get a better kind of breakdown of the entire game, so they know what to expect, they know what the mechanics look like. And yeah, I mean, that was kind of my goal here, and I feel really good about it, and I'm really glad that people are excited about it. And you know, in a month we will find out just how excited people are. Either way, Play Ball is going to happen. And I can't wait to share more of it with everybody. I can't wait for people to finally sit down and get to play it. But all in all, I'm just glad that I made it. We'll see what happens from then on. But for now, I guess we'll go ahead and call it a day. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and joining me. And if you're watching this on YouTube later, thank you very much. You can follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/callmecaulfield. You can support me on Patreon, patreon.com/callmecaulfield, or you can donate to my Kofi to sort of just help me out sort of on a limited basis. ko-fi.com/callmecaulfield. But with that being said, thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. And I suppose the only thing left to say is let's get ready to play ball. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.